Per usual, living on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Let's take a look at some altcoins today. Bit of an interesting day with some Asia FUD. Feels like 2017, feels like China cancels Bitcoin or whatever all over again. The funny part about these headlines, regardless of reality, are that they need a certain scenario or situation to actually have an impact, right? When we were at 28K, which was a key technical level, a fake Cointelegraph intern headline about ETFs briefly popped us higher, and then we continued later on. Today we had a, I don't know what to call it. We'll call him an analyst. We'll be generous, saying that ETFs are likely to get denied, which I think is very unlikely based on all the paperwork scrambling that's been going on. In any event, didn't matter. Market sold off. It helps that Legacy is kind of angry today. DXY is up today. S&P and NASDAQ are down today. Oil up today as well. So there's usually a constellation of factors when there's a catalyst like this. And seeing where funding was at yesterday versus today, it's it's night and day. I don't know what's going on over at OKEX that they're so negative on funding. But funding is completely reset. We have flushed out a ton of leverage, a ton of late longers. We're continuing to flush out meme coins, which I'm not angry about. But there are some green coins on the day. ARB, the big one. Maker a little bit. Say, if I'm saying that right. So there's some green out there, but not much today. Bonk down 16%. You hate to see it. If your time horizon is next week, you're probably trading this a little differently. If your time horizon is post-Bitcoin halving, ultimately it's a year after Bitcoin halving. That's usually when the cycle top is. So if you're preparing for that, days like this are a blessing. You're buying the dip and all the way down to zero, right? We talked about it, I think yesterday or the day before in one of the videos. You're certainly safer on spot where you can't get liquidated. You're safer fishing where the fish are and avoiding stuff like Zcash that's hitting an all-time low today. Avoiding stuff like EOS. If you're diving into the alt pool with a sleeve, with an allocation, you're probably focused on activity and layer ones and maybe layer twos and maybe meme coins. So I would avoid anything with massive baggage. That's just me. Anyway, if your time horizon is months or a year from now, who cares, right? You're going to see events like this every quarter down the road. Inevitably there's going to be some negative headline around halving too. That's for whatever reason going to be enough to be the headline. Across the board on high time frames, things look fine. There's no worries. Even on daily, most of these coins look fine. RUNE and Link specifically I'll talk about. Those have some head and shoulder evidence on them. But really, all this comes down to the remaining news catalyst for the Bitcoin ETF, which is likely to have some announcement by next week, Friday at the latest. So even if you're an ultra short-term time horizon trader, that is also very relevant to you in the now. The people that got wiped out, it's been fun. Thanks for playing. Hopefully you learned a lesson and you don't do that again. Just keep in mind when funding gets hot like that, like I said yesterday or the day before, that acts as a headwind for everything for sure. Here's Bonk down over 60% since this story dropped. Well, I guess it's 60% from the all-time high. Speculation will get you far. It will get you very far on certain things. I know there's been a ton of this going on. It is what it is, but I just got to be careful, Got to know when the music stops and to throw that potato as far away from yourself as you can before it explodes in your hand. I don't know what to expect on trusts like this. I just assume they go back to zero, right? There was also this on the 15th where it hit Bloomberg. So like I said yesterday, once this stuff starts to hit the news, it's usually towards the end of whatever local high is going on. So just more anecdata for what to pay attention to in April 2025 or thereabouts, right? Relative to what's going on with price after the halving. And if we go to dominance first, dominance bounced, which is what you'd expect if there's a sell the news, whatever going on. Flight to quality, okay. No real changes here. We're still overbought based on the Kijun on the weekly. We're still bullish on the weekly. We still look fine. I'm not really worried about Bitcoin at all. Total 3 in the weekly cloud still has a remaining edge to edge. this can get extremely bumpy and noisy. We've been served on a silver platter with price action that's gone straight up and made me look like a genius on all these edge-to-edge trades. But that certainly is not always the case. This may dip down and broadly reach back into the previous range before moving higher. And that may take another year, right? Alts do best after Bitcoin's halving. Can't say that enough. That's why it's my preference on any alt positions to take the longer term time horizon. It's just an easier trade. Who cares about this stuff right now? It's just noise. It's going to be noise. If you're right, you're really right. If you're wrong, you're only a little bit wrong. Total 2 against BTC also broke a diagonal downtrend, which is good for alts. Here's where Bitcoin halving is going to be. That may line up with an edge-to-edge trade post April 15th. It may form an inverted head and shoulders, something else to watch for. As much as it pains me to see alts benefit from Bitcoin's emission schedule and attention, it is what it is, right? But that's when alts typically do best. Stablecoins have continued to slowly increase. USDC bleeding has stopped. Tether circulating supply continues to increase. There have also been a few newer stables that have hit the scene. USDM is kind of hitting off with a bang as far as things to watch in 2024. Definitely regulatory stuff. Who knows what's actually going to get passed and what's not, but the stablecoin bills would be the low-hanging fruit, and USDC would desperately benefit from regulation because they would probably be fine, whereas everything else may be at risk in the US for being delisted. That's the ultimate fear for anything, is being delisted off of exchanges. PYUSD, the PayPal stablecoin, also increasing in circulating supply a little bit here over the past month, and FDUSD, which is the Binance stablecoin replacement, also up quite a bit on the month as far as circulating supply. So it's not just Tether and USDC that are relevant. There's others that are going to become more relevant throughout the year, is my guess. At least an attempt to come after the Tether throne. The problem with that is that Tether is just so ubiquitous globally as a transaction mechanism. It's going to be hard to get people to take something else. This is the SEC list of alleged securities. So I just, from a risk management perspective, will continue to point this out. Let's say you're all in Solana and you think Solana is the best thing since sliced bread. You just have to be aware of some potential headline risk, regulatory risk coming your way this year, along with everything else on this list. The obvious path that I would see, again, is just delisting and or making trading these alleged securities a permissioned path, where if you're not an accredited investor on an exchange, you will not be able to touch these pairs. I think that's where we are headed. I also think where we are headed is KYC DeFi, permission DeFi. I don't know how long it's going to take for us to get there. It's not pretty. It's ugly. But I would just be careful assuming that that isn't going to matter when it probably will. Ask Zcash, ask Monero, how's getting delisted feel? Okay. It's not a good feeling. The networks will go on. They will continue to function. But if people can't access this stuff easily, it is difficult to keep those prices where they are. As far as technicals, everything, little mosquito bite, basically, right? With the needle today. ETH on some exchanges reaching like 1850. Just ugly wick. Daily keytunes hit on a lot of coins, which is one reason to always just have something at those levels when you think a pullback may happen. ETH even pulled back to the ascending triangle breakout. Nice little throwback. Daily cloud still bullish. Weekly cloud still has the edge to edge. This will probably crisscross on the daily TK. Some of these will crisscross in and out of the daily cloud. I like those signals better because the last best signal we had was the breakout, right? This is Bitcoin's 28K equivalent. The breakout here at 18 was go time. So the next best signal for the long side would be completely resetting all of this, getting back into the cloud, turning the cloud red, and then giving us another signal like that at 1800. I know I spend a lot of time crapping all over ETH BTC, and I'm going to continue to do so. This is probably going to be a new weekly low for ETH BTC, if I had to guess. And still really no bull div yet. Even if an initial bull div forms, that isn't a surefire bet. That's the bottom. That can last for a long time. So to me, it just says we're still early on, assuming that this is going to bounce here. I just don't feel that currently. BNB on the weekly continues to look okay. On some of these charts, you're not even going to know today was a day, right? On some of these charts, price is just going to look flat. This still looks fine for continuation through the weekly cloud, and then potentially a cycle target somewhere at 1,000. Also extremely sensitive to regulatory stuff and what's going on there and with Binance US. Sol still looks fine. Almost tapped the daily Kijun. I'm sure it did on many exchanges. Hit the midpoint of the pitchfork. Just sort of your run-of-the-mill mean reversion. Nothing super angry looking here. Most of these coins have been running so hot for so long, they will benefit from a reset of everything, right? Let this go sideways. Let this sell off. Let this go down to 80, right? Who cares in the long run where this goes? The people that care are the people that are 100x long at 100, sweating bullets right now. Those people are going to get washed out one way or the other anyway, so let them. But for me, my signals, my edge is always going to be looking for breakouts at 25, right? Looking for whatever the next breakout at potentially 80 to 90 is down the line in April, right? So overall, Sol looks fine. ADA, same thing. Tap the Kijun on the daily. Nothing's going to look happy right now, but we're okay, right? The kids are all right. AVAX, maybe a little bit of a head and shoulders there. I think I sold what I had of AVAX at 48. As we go down the list here, it just gets harder for me to believe that this stuff's going to have a run when it's already running so hot. I've got a bag of maybe 10 to 20 coins that I'm just holding until 2025. This is not one of them. This would have to retrace probably to the 20s for me to think about it again. But this very much looks like it's going to reset as well. And that's good. You should just let it in. Let that wash over you and say, this is fine. Everything's fine. Most of these charts were up, 300% last year. Doge couldn't quite stay in the weekly cloud, but it looks like eventually, probably, we will see a move through the weekly cloud in 2024. Curiously, there were 2 multi-million-dollar on-chain Doge transactions to Robinhood today. I don't really know what that was about, but kind of interesting. This may morph into a 2-year, 3-year inverted head and shoulders throughout 2024. Even better, right? Anything above a dime here, anything above 10 cents, likely to be go time. Dot piercing the daily Kijun looks okay, right? Again, all this stuff's going to reset eventually. Probably some sort of head and shoulders before the breakdown there, but long-term trend still probably intact. RUNE getting closer now to real deal resetting. I talked about a 4-hour or 8-hour head and shoulders that is looking more and more real, and we don't even necessarily have to break down, but it does tell me, dear trader, momentum is probably flat here at best. At worst, we'd expect a downtrend or a mean reversion to start to form here. But let all this stuff reset. Come talk to me again when the cloud flips bearish to bullish. That's what I really care about. But the TKI cross is likely to flip bearish here, which would be the first bearish signal since August. So RUNE was definitely one of the early movers. So it makes sense that it's going to be the early movers on the bearish side. Link is kind of close to that, similar, moved in September on the daily. And this looks like it just wants to reset. It looks tired. It looks like it's been fighting this head and shoulders flu-like symptoms for a while now. So let the recovery happen. Wash out the people that were late. There were people who saw this go from 6 to 12 and decided to get long at 15. Sorry, maybe next time, right? So they're going to lose, and that's just what happens. And this is going to reset, and that's okay. I still like, 20 to 30 as a cycle target. Uni kind of hitting its breakout point. Daily Kijun, no big issues there. Maker is up on the day. What a candle. There was some news, I forget what it was. Anything RWA adjacent that has any sort of positive news is probably going to do well. Market's really looking for narratives still outside of the ETF. So anything that can tap into AI or RWA or flavor of the week narrative is probably going to do better than other coins. But this looks fine. It doesn't look pretty, but it looks okay on trend on the daily. Then some of the other stuff down the list, AAVE, on the 3-day, looks fine. Doesn't really look impacted here. Again, you're not even going to know on most of these charts that today was a day, right? It's just people who are over leveraged, in too deep, getting liquidated. ETC looks fine. 3-day green. I might even add on this position today. Looks totally okay. Filecoin, same thing. 3 days ready to flip bullish. Looks okay. It's the beginning of a high time frame trend, potentially. So if you're going to take a stab, I take a stab at charts that look like this. This gives you the best chance at bullish continuation. Some of the stuff is already, again, running been pretty hot, so it's probably going to retrace a little bit more. IMX here on the 3-day, maybe 150, I don't know. But, you know, the people asking me about stuff like IMX are probably the people that have started to load the boat on the top side of this. Cycle-wise, in spot, you are probably fine. It's just, I would avoid leverage on this stuff because you're going to get bulldozed on the dumbest stuff imaginable like today. INJ also hitting its daily Kijun, maybe some sort of falling wedge into the cloud. Well, momentum resetting there as well. Then we've got Lido, OP, and ARB. All those look fine, right? You wouldn't even know that everything sold off like 10 to 15% today. ARB is up 10% on the day. I saw Vitalik mentioned ENS, that's up 40% on the day. I mean, there's always going to be a winner somewhere, but these charts all look okay to me. Lido hasn't hit its measured move target yet. OP has, so, you know, between the three, I would prefer ARB or Lido if they're in the same sleeve for you mentally as they are for me. But all in all, things look okay. You know, we're going to have days like this every once in a while, so you got to protect yourself accordingly and make sure you don't become a bonk community member, as an example. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.